Welcome to Mulready Minutes with Oklahoma Insurance Commissioner Glenn Mulready. This is a podcast about insurance for insurance folks, risk managers, and business leaders. We'll dive deep and look at what is and isn't working, talk to leaders in the industry, and keep you informed on what's happening in Oklahoma and around the country.
Hi, I'm Oklahoma Insurance Commissioner Glenn Mulready. Welcome to another edition of our Mulready Minute podcast. And excited this month to have a guest with not a direct connection with insurance. We've done a lot kind of digging into the weeds with insurance over this time, but certainly something that has a lot of tie in the insurance world. And I just thought it was very timely given the season as we enter storm season here. We're in April.
Absolutely.
And the four-letter word we're going to talk about is roof.
I didn't know roof was a four-letter word, Glenn, but maybe it is.
So we have with us today Scott McCollum, longtime business owner here in the Oklahoma City area with a roofing company, been in the industry a long time. I think on the board of the association. We just want to talk about roofs with a lot of very general things. And
Sure.
So Scott, thank you for being here.
You bet. I appreciate you having me.
Okay. So here in Oklahoma, we get more than our fair share of severe convective storms, and those bring high winds and bring hail, and pick a number. I've seen statistics, 80-85% of all of our claim dollars when those storms come through are tied to the roof. But tell us first about the association, Oklahoma Roofing Contractor Association.
Right.
I was out 3, maybe 4 weeks ago and spoke at their conference, and you
First
and I
of
were
March,
on a panel, and that's sort of what sparked me to have a meeting here to sit down with you.
Well, Orca is, I refer to it as the new Orca. We have a new executive director, Avery Smith, who's been with Orca for a little over a year now, just had his first anniversary. Avery came from the oil and gas business. He's committed to building a trade association that is the model for all trade associations in the state of Oklahoma. It is no longer the good old boy beer drinking network. This is about a bunch of professional roofing contractors who are passionate about what they deliver to the consuming marketplace. They are about best practices. They're about resiliency. They're about building better and all of those kinds of concepts. Everything that's being done in Orca right now is looking at it from the standpoint of a consumer who has a need and needs to know where they can go to find someone they can trust and rely on to serve their best interest. And that's what Orca is becoming. That's what the professional membership of Orca is all about, and really, really proud to be a part of that.
So why should a roofing contractor be part of Orca?
Well, I tell you, if you're passionate about roofing and you really care about serving the consumers, then you need to be a part of Orca, because in Orca, you're going to be educated. You're going to be exposed to all of those best practices. You're going to have, you're going to have mentors and friends in the organization to be able to help you out with any aspect of your business, whether that's simple business practices or that's the more technical aspects of roofing or running a roofing business. That's what that's about. It's advocacy. It's getting involved in the legislative process. It's getting involved in things that actually shape a landscape that will ultimately protect Oklahoma citizens. And it's really about being in a place where you know that you don't have to know everything, because there's somebody else there that's going to have been down that path before. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Those and we're getting a huge number of young people coming into the roofing industry, running businesses on their own for the first time. Maybe they're coming from a roofing background, working for someone else, and there's a whole lot of learning curve for them, and there's a whole lot of pain that goes with that they can avoid by being a part of an organization like that.
Yeah, I know. I was impressed. What was at your annual meeting or annual conference that I spoke at out in Edmond. It was a professional conference at a conference center with a trade show with, I don't know, manufacturers and others. So lots to learn there.
And I'll tell you this as a testament and a compliment to Avery Smith. That did not look like any trade or expo event, we call it, that we've ever had at Orca before.
Oh,
so it is kind of what we're growing into. And the path forward is clearly defined to be based on education, best practices, building better, and serving the consumers of the state of Oklahoma. And that's what we're all about.
Yeah, good to hear.
Yep.
So let's take a step back.
Sure.
And let's talk about you and the industry.
Oh, okay.
Sort of what I like to talk about is like, because you've been at it a while.
I have been. I've been
more than a couple of years.
More than a couple of years, yeah.
Talk about the evolution of the industry and whether that's products or standards or
the two things that I really want to talk about today, Glenn. I think number one is what building science has brought to us: technology, innovation, systems, the way that we do things, the products that we use. I want to talk about that. And then I want to talk about the other thing that is a little bit more related, obviously more related to your space. And that's the difference that exists today in that claims environment from what I experienced 15, 20, 25 years ago. Because it's something that plays into the outcomes for all of our citizens. And that's why I think it's important. So let's start with the technology piece of it. I'll stand up in front of a room of roofing contractors, really anyone that'll listen, and I'll say this whole idea of us treating roofs as commodities is just not where we need to be. We need to be looking at a roof as what it is, which is the second most important system next to the foundation and the one weather shedding system in your roof that is most
good way to put it, weather shedding.
Yeah. And that's what it is. And we have building products. Building science has brought us products now that I can install in Oklahoma, in the Hail Belt, in Tornado Alley, and I can do them in such a way that those roofs are not going to have to get replaced every 7 to 10 years, which has been the history of asphalt shingles in Oklahoma. Okay. I'll stand up in front of a group and say that I've been installing a Flex Technology shingle since 2018 in Oklahoma, thousands and thousands and thousands of them. And they've seen every hailstone that's fallen in Oklahoma up to the 5 3/4 inch in Ada a year and a half or 2 years ago. And I have never had to replace one of these roofs because of hail. It's because it is a superior product. It is installed exactly per the manufacturer's requirements in a systems installation, and it is going to perform. And I'm sorry.
No, you just mentioned systems, and I heard a lot about that when I was at the conference with you guys. Take a minute just to explain what that means.
Absolutely, and systems are critical because a system is a number of manufactured products manufactured by one manufacturer and designed to be used together and installed in a particular way to accomplish the purpose, keeping the weather out of your home, okay? Traditionally, and unfortunately, what happens in the roofing industry is most contractors look at the cost of the products they're sending to a job, and they'll take this manufacturer's shingle and this manufacturer's like a buffet, okay? And they will pick the less expensive products and put them together. That's not a system. That's a conglomeration of products that weren't necessarily even intended to be used together, okay? The problem with that is that manufacturers then have an out because you did not build a roof according to their system or their methodology. And so if there is something that goes awry and there should be a manufacturer's liability potentially, they can get out of it pretty easily, okay?
It easily avoids the warranty?
It doesn't void the warranty, but it denies consumers what we call enhanced warranties. You've got a package warranty, okay? You've got the out-of-the-box warranty that every product comes with. But every manufacturer has their system. Certainty calls it Integrity Roof System. That's the system that I build. It's all I build. The Integrity Roof System allows us to give people enhanced warranties. And in the Certainty world, the enhanced warranty goes all the way up to a 50-year manufacturer's defect on the products and 25 years of removal, disposal, and reinstall. In other words, it includes the labor, okay? That's a big deal and can avoid a lot of people having to file an insurance claim, okay? Now, this is not for storm damage. These are for systems problems. But a lot of people,
manufacturer's defect.
What we find out, and we have a lot of people, we have to actually make a decision. Is it a manufacturer's defect or is it a storm-related claim? See what I'm saying? Get into that systems world where you have products that were intended to be used together that are going to perform when they're applied exactly as the manufacturer requires, and keep that manufacturer on the hook for the full length of their warranty period. That's what systems do for you.
Yeah. So for the non-roofers listening, watching, rattle off just quickly those different components of a system.
Okay, so we're going to start out with every system pretty much is going to require that you do what's called a clean deck install. We're just going to tell you how to do it. So that means you have to take everything off of the roof and you're down to the bare deck. Remove all the flashings, all the underlayments, all the layers, everything down to the bare deck. That deck has to be repaired or mended in some way. If there's any water in it or delamination problems, things like that, all has to be repaired. Then you have to use the manufacturer's, you have to do all the flashing details per the code and per the manufacturer's requirements. Now you're talking about your starter course and your underlayments and your ice and water products and your field shingles and your ventilation and your hip and ridge accessories. Those are the components of a roof system. Okay. And when it all comes from one manufacturer, and when it's installed by a contractor like my company is, with the highest level of credentials, we can offer the highest level of warranty protection to a consumer. Okay. And that's not in that mindset of an asphalt shingle roof is a commodity. Let's just do what we've always done. Let's just do it the cheapest way we can do it. That's not the attitude that consumers should have. It's certainly not the attitude of a professional roofing contractor.
So we're going to move on from this, but it's something else I just want to hit on that comes up quite a bit in my conversations with folks. And I just want you to talk about it for a minute, especially here in Oklahoma. Folks, they'll tell me, well, I have a 30-year roof. I even have a 50-year roof. Talk to me about when folks say that, what that means and what it doesn't mean, and what your experience is.
So the 20, 30, 40, 50-year life of a roof, that's how we used to label or how we used to classify shingles. That all went away in 2012. The asphalt shingle manufacturing industry went to a different platform, a different methodology, and all of those year names or descriptors on asphalt shingles went away. Everything in the asphalt shingle world in 2012 became a limited lifetime warranty. Then everybody goes, well, whose life? What's a limited lifetime warranty? So when someone says, I had a 30-year roof and only lasted 10 years, or someone says, I paid for a 50-year roof and it only lasted 15 years, what you're not understanding is those descriptors simply told the manufacturers how to depreciate their warranties over time. That's all that was. So if you had a 20-year roof,
great detail.
You had a 20-year roof with 3-tab shingle, 20-year roof, and it's 10 years old, and there's a manufacturer's defect, you're going to get paid 50% of what the value of that shingle was. Okay. So that's how those descriptive terms were used. It was really more in terms of how is a manufacturer going to respond to warranties when you get into those depreciations on a roof based on its age. That's really, all that was.
Really good information.
I think nothing to do in terms of saying that roof's going to last that long.
Yeah. And I understand that. I think the average consumer.
You bet. I think you're exactly right.
Misunderstandings in that.
I think you're exactly right.
Okay. Let's shift gears.
Sure.
Storm blows through here in Oklahoma. I inevitably get calls from the media. What should folks do? And I often will tell the media, I will say, the problem here is that after every bad storm comes bad actors. And let's talk about licensed versus unlicensed contractors. I want to talk about CIB.
Sure.
How to avoid bad actors, that type of thing.
Sure. So first of all, I'm going to raise my hand up and I'm going I'm going to own this, and tell everybody, and most people, all of our clients, everybody in Oklahoma pretty much knows this. I blew north of the Red River about 16 years ago, okay? So, if you want to use those ugly words of storm chaser or whatever, I was not a storm chaser.
You're from south of the Red River?
I came up
the
here.
tape. We're done.
I came up here literally at the request of one of my clients in North Texas to call on 4 people, and 3 of those 4 people became the nucleus of what became the company that you see today. But yeah, whenever there's a storm, you can drive down the street. I think the event the hailstorm last year was at September, October, and basically northwest and then down through. That storm was an indictment of the roofing industry. Okay, absolute indictment of the roofing industry. You could go into any street in northwest Oklahoma City, Edmond area, and you could drive down the street and you would see license plate after license plate after license plate, and roofing companies that I've been here for 16 years in Oklahoma City, never heard of half of the names on the trucks or the vehicles, okay? And that is very, very scary to me for consumers. All right. Because I know that unfortunately, the easy path in roofing is to do what's always been done. The easy path in roofing is to commoditize an asphalt shingle, and the only thing you have to compete on is price. That's the easy. That's why the majority of people do that. That's what happens after a storm. It's who's going to get there first, which I think, number one, that's offensive to me. The hail hadn't even melted and they're already banging on your doors. That's pretty offensive. Number two, it's who's going to tell the biggest lie. And typically that big lie is going to be, oh, don't worry about your deductible. You're not responsible. We'll take care of that for you or whatever. And then who's going to offer the most on top of that? Who's going to give away the most? Okay. Who's going to give you the color TV set, or who's going to give you the free this, that, or the other, or whatever? And consumers unfortunately buy into that. Okay. They feel pressured because I think the roofing industry, Orca as an example, we've done a poor job of letting consumers know that there are a group of people out here that you don't have to play this game this way. There are a group of people out here who actually are going to educate and inform you about what might really be in your best interest, okay? And there's a group of people out here who are going to do things the way they're supposed to be done. When we go out, and I tell people, if somebody's knocking on your door, first of all, we have a little deal at McRoof that our clients, now 16 years worth of clients in Oklahoma City, there's a link that they can go into and they can print out a document to put on their front door and says, thanks for stopping by, but McRoof's got me covered. Okay. And that's what it is. And literally we'll have people who call, will you put a sign up just to keep everybody else away? It shouldn't be that way. When they knock on your door, the first thing you should ask them is, can I see your orange card? And if they look at you like you have 4 horns, then you've got somebody that you really don't need to carry that conversation any further. The orange card is the card from the Construction Industries Board. Every legitimate roofing contractor in the state has that, okay? It has the name of the designated individual on there, and it has an expiration date on there. If you happen to get one of those people knocking on your door that actually shows you an orange card, excuse me just a second, I'll be right back. Walk around the corner, get your phone out, CIB roofers, okay? And click on it and see, are they still in good standing? Just because they gave you an orange card doesn't mean they're still in good standing. So that's number one. The second thing is that I think manufacturer's credentials are important. People should ask about manufacturer's credentials. People should ask for local references. People should ask about, Better Business Bureau ratings and things like that. Are you an accredited business in the Better Business Bureau? Ask your friends and neighbors for somebody that they know that they trust that's done work in your neighborhood on roofs just like yours. That's a good place to start.
Fortunately, after each storm, we hear stories, no matter how many times I get out there and say, do not write a check to someone that knocks on your door.
And they still do it.
Yeah, and well, we need half up front to go buy materials. And so I think just our advice is always don't do that. And then, as you said, references. Talk to your agent. Talk to people that you've known that have had their roofs replaced, and get some references and recommendations.
But I always tell people, don't get in a hurry. I mean, typically, after most of our storms, there's not something that really requires immediate attention on the majority of roofs. There are a few roofs. You've got an active leak. You've got something needs to be touched up. You got a tree fell. You've got a little hole in your roof, something like. Obviously, those are emergency type repairs. Those need to be taken care of, but they don't need to be taken care of by one of these people that's knocking on your doors, okay? But as far as what's going on in your roof, the games that are played, the contractors that are, I hate to say it, for lack of a better term, really, really proficient at playing that game, their whole deal is rushing to get you to sign on a piece of paper, and their whole deal is rushing to get you to file an insurance claim. Absolutely don't fall into that trap. The first thing that has to be done is you have to have a qualified inspection. That's not a roofing salesman telling you need to file an insurance claim. That is someone that has credentials in the roof inspection industries and space, who is qualified to tell you what the extent of the damage is. The other thing is, my team, we can't advise someone or don't advise someone that we believe there's sufficient damage that would justify your filing an insurance claim until we have actually looked at their insurance contract. How can I tell someone to file a claim if I don't know that they've got a $15,000 deductible?
Right.
How can I tell someone to file a claim when I don't know that they don't have ordinance or law coverage? How can I tell someone to file a claim when I don't know that they have an ACV policy instead of an RCV policy? So don't fall into that trap.
That's really, really good advice. Just recently when we had our storms come through, funny, but within my own neighborhood, I was going around, I drove our neighborhood looking at roofs because we didn't have major damage, but there were a number of places.
Right.
And I went and knocked on doors to just let them know. Hey, just in case you didn't notice, you've got some shingles missing up here. You're going to want, and the second piece of advice, I was like, go get an estimate, get a roofer over here to get an estimate what that's going to cost. Then talk to your agent, compare that with your policy. Don't file a claim. You don't need a claim filed that you then end up with a zero payment on. That is then on your record as well.
Well, and we've been on hundreds of roofs in the last 30 days for wind damage. And I just got to tell you, people, it takes a huge amount of wind damage to equal an insurance claim, okay? Deductibles are high nowadays. Wind repairs are simple, okay? They are not relatively expensive, okay? They are simple to perform, and they're not really expensive. And it takes a whole lot of wind damage on a roof to equal an insurance deductible. You got to have somebody out there who can tell you. Now, we have been on wind claim roofs that as a result of being on that roof to evaluate what their wind damage was, possibly there was hail damage from last fall, okay? And in fact, they do need to file a claim, but that's a whole different conversation. But yeah, the wind claims, we tell everybody on everything, let us come look at it first. Let's make sure that you really do need to be filing an insurance claim, but wind in particular.
And just to wrap up this point, I also, that day of that storm, that tornado hit Owasso, and I was in our Tulsa office that day. And so I was up there, I don't think it was 5 hours later, but just a matter of a few hours. But the activity in those neighborhoods to our roofing contractors, some of them going door to door, and I was approaching homeowners just to check in, tell them who I was, let them know that we'd be there in a few weeks if they're having trouble with a claim, checking that they were okay, that type thing. And I think some of them were thinking I was a roofing contractor knocking on their door as well, the way they reacted to me at first until they learned who I was. But it was a beehive of activity just swarming those neighborhoods. So anyways, we're closing out on time here, but a question that I've been asked that I don't have a good answer to, though. We've got storms coming. I don't know, let's just assume storms are ripe for this weekend potentially.
Mm-hmm.
What can I do as a homeowner? Is there anything I can do to protect my roof, or it's just what I have now and we hope for the best and we pray?
Well, there's really not a whole lot you can do to protect your roof right now between now and this weekend or next week or whatever. If you have things like if you have those wind shingles and they haven't been repaired yet, then you're susceptible to have significantly more damage as a result of that, because it gives the wind and the weather a place to get in. Okay. So you definitely, to the degree that it's possible, if you could get somebody out to do those repairs before we have more bad weather. And we do these as temporary repairs. We don't do them as permanent repairs. Okay. This time of year, all we want to do is keep you from sustaining any damage on the interior of your home during storm season. So we'll use ice and water products or synthetic underlayment products and nail it in such a way that we're going to keep the water out of your home. That's really what our concern right now is. That's about the best you can do as far as protecting your roof going forward into this week or so of bad weather we might have. The other thing that you ought to do is everyone needs to understand, get your insurance policy out. Okay, you need to understand what your insurance policy, what's your wind and hail deductible, which is
you're singing my song.
Wind and hail deductible, separate deductible. Okay, is it RCV, replacement cost value, or is it an actual cash value, or heaven forbid, some of these roof payment schedules that we see on some of these policies that people have no idea what that means and how they're going to get paid on their claims. Do you have ordinance or law coverage? That is really, really, really important. And a lot of people don't realize how inexpensive that coverage is, and yet how many dollars it will ultimately save them in terms of their out-of-pocket expense when it comes time to replace that roof and bring it up to the current building codes. That's really, really important.
Well, Scott, we are basically out of time, but I want a couple things. Something you just brought up that I want to talk about, and that's the way insurance companies are reacting. So much is happening from a claim standpoint here in Oklahoma. What they are doing is changing their coverage, whether that's increasing deductibles or changing roofs. Okay, if your roof is 10 years older, we're only going to do actual cash value. We won't do replacement cost. Or we won't write homes that are have roofs over 15 years old. They're all over the board. I mean, that's not a standard thing, but that's what we're seeing is insurance companies are responding with how they cover roofs to try to keep premiums to a reasonable level here in Oklahoma. So you just explained a number of those things, but I did want to touch on that. That's a wrap, Scott. Thank you again for educating us on all things roofs.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you.
If you found this episode informative, please subscribe and share with your colleagues. Visit oid.ok.gov/podcast. Let us know what topics you would like to hear about on this podcast. Until next time, take care from the Oklahoma Insurance Department.